The stars had always been beautiful from the observation deck of Harmony Prime. Ambassador. Una Park stood there every morning watching ships from 100 different worlds drift past the massive station. She had done this for 15 years. 15 years of smiling at alien faces. 15 years of learning strange languages. 15 years of believing that peace was possible between Earth and the galaxy. Today, she stood in chains. The Valeri guards pushed her forward, their blue skin caught the light of distant suns as they marched her down the long corridor. Una did not cry. She did not beg. She kept her head high and her steps steady. She was a daughter of Earth, and Earth had taught her to face darkness without fear. 3 days ago, they had arrested her in her quarters. Counselor Theron himself had come with soldiers. He was tall for a Valeri, with silver eyes that held no warmth. He had thrown documents on her table and called her a spy. The evidence was false. Una knew it. Theron knew it. Everyone knew it. But truth did not matter to the Galactic Council anymore. Humanity had scared them. In just 200 years, humans had spread across 3 colony worlds. Their ships grew faster. Their weapons grew stronger. Their numbers grew larger with each passing decade. The elder species had watched the stars for 10,000 years. They had never seen anything like humanity before. Fear makes people do terrible things. It makes them see enemies where there are friends. It makes them destroy what they do not understand. The council chamber was circular and vast. Representatives from 12 species sat in elevated seats, looking down at the central platform where Una now stood. She recognized all of them. She had shared meals with them. She had laughed at their jokes and listened to their stories. Now they watched her with cold eyes. Theron rose from his seat. His voice echoed through the chamber as he read the charges. Espionage, conspiracy, theft of military secrets. Each accusation was a lie built upon another lie. Una wanted to scream the truth, but they had disabled the translation systems. Her words would reach no one. The vote took less than a minute. 11 hands rose in favor of execution. Only the Oran ambassador kept his hand down. His large dark eyes met Una's across the chamber. She saw shame in them. She saw apology. But she also saw fear. He was afraid to stand alone against the others. She did not blame him. Fear was a powerful thing. They did not take her to a cell. They did not give her time to send a message home. They marched her straight from the chamber to the central plaza of Harmony Prime. Thousands of aliens had gathered there. Cameras floated in the air, broadcasting to every inhabited system in the galaxy. The scaffold stood in the center of the plaza. It was made of dark metal, simple and brutal. A rope hung from the beam above. Una looked at it and felt her heart grow still. She had always known that diplomacy was dangerous work. Now she had accepted that risk the day she left Earth. But she had never imagined it would end like this. A Valeri official read her sentence in 3 languages. The crowd was silent. Some looked away. Others watched with hunger in their eyes. Una searched the faces for sympathy and found very little. Humanity had no friends here. Perhaps they never had. They brought her up the steps. The rope was rough against her neck. She could smell metal and fear and the strange perfume of alien flowers. The plaza was decorated with banners from all 12 council species. They fluttered in the artificial wind like victory flags. Una thought of Earth. She thought of the mountains near Seoul where she had grown up. She thought of her mother's cooking and her father's laugh. She thought of the day she had left for the stars, so full of hope and wonder. She thought of all the things she would never do now. All the sunrises she would never see. A council official stepped forward. He asked if she had any final words. They turned on her translator, expecting her to beg, expecting her to cry for mercy. Una Park lifted her chin. Her voice rang out clear and strong across the plaza. Across the station, across every screen on every world that was watching, Earth will remember. The floor dropped. The rope pulled tight. The daughter of Earth was gone. Far away, on a small blue planet, Admiral Taiho Kong sat in his office at Earth Command. He was 63 years old. He had served in the military for 40 years. He had seen battles and treaties and everything in between. He thought he had seen everything the galaxy had to offer. The broadcast played on his screen. He watched Unipark die, watched her body hang still in the alien air. He watched the council officials smile and shake hands like they had accomplished something great. Taiho removed his glasses. He set them carefully on his desk. His hands were steady. His face showed nothing. But inside, something old and cold was waking up. Something that humanity had buried long ago when they reached for the stars. Something that the galaxy had forgotten existed. Humans could be patient. Humans could be kind. Humans could forgive almost anything. Almost Taiho pressed a button on his desk. His aide appeared in the doorway within seconds. "Sir, wake up the generals," Taiho said. His voice was quiet. It was the quietness of deep water. The quietness before a storm. All of them.
Sir, it's 3 in the morning.
"I know what time it is." Taiho looked up. His eyes were dark and hard. "Wake them up. Tell them to come to command. Tell them to bring their war plans." The aide's face went pale. "War plans? Sir? Which ones?" Taiho turned back to his screen. Yuna's body still hung there. The council was already dispersing, returning to their comfortable lives, believing they had solved the human problem. They were already forgetting what they had done. But Earth would not forget. "All of them," Taiho said. "Bring all of them." Across the world, in bedrooms and barracks and bases, generals woke to the sound of emergency calls. Presidents and ministers gathered in secure rooms. Scientists and engineers were pulled from their sleep. Factories that had been quiet for decades began to hum with new power. The galaxy had wanted to send humanity a message. They had wanted to show that humans were small and weak and alone. Instead, they had woken something ancient. Something that had followed humanity through ice ages and wars and plagues. Something that made humans climb out of the dark and reach for the stars in the first place. They had woken human rage. And human rage, once awakened, did not sleep easily again in the stars above Earth. Unipark's last words echoed through the void. Earth will remember, and Earth was already beginning to remember. The rain fell on Sol Megacity like tears from the sky. 20 million people stood in the streets watching the giant screens on every building. They were silent. No one moved. No one spoke. They just watched and waited for their president to speak. President Minji. Cho walked onto the stage of the United Earth Parliament. She was small in size, but large in presence. Her gray hair was pulled back tight. Her eyes were red from tears she had shed in private. But now in front of her people, she showed only strength. Behind her, a photograph hung on the wall. It showed Unipark smiling. She had been photographed on her first day as ambassador, full of hope and excitement. That smile would never return. That hope had been murdered in an alien plaza far from home. Minji looked at the photograph for a long moment. Then she turned to face the cameras. Every screen on Earth showed her face. Every radio carried her voice. Every human, no matter where they lived, stopped to listen. 3 days ago, she began, the Galactic Council executed Ambassador Unipark. They called her a spy. They said she was a threat to their security. They lied. Her voice was steady but hard. It was the voice of a mother who had lost a child. It was the voice of a leader who had been betrayed. Unipark served humanity for 15 years. She believed in peace. She believed that we could live among the stars as friends, not enemies. She gave her life to that belief, and the council hanged her for it. In the streets, people began to cry. Old men who had fought in wars long ago. Young women who had dreamed of becoming diplomats like Yuna. Children who did not fully understand, but felt the weight of grief around them. They did not kill a diplomat, Minji continued. They killed a daughter of Earth. They killed one of us. And they believed we would accept this. They believed we would bow our heads and go back to our lives. They believed we were weak. She paused. The rain fell harder. Thunder rolled in the distance like drums of war. They believed wrong. Minji pressed a button on her podium. The screens behind her changed. They showed factories and shipyards. They showed soldiers and scientists. They showed weapons that humanity had built in secret, hoping never to use them. Today, I announce Protocol Omega. total mobilization of human military forces. Every shipyard will build warships. Every factory will produce weapons. Every man and woman who wishes to fight will be given the chance. The crowd began to murmur. This was not diplomacy. This was not negotiation. This was war. We will not fight for territory, Minji said. We will not fight for resources. We will not fight for power. We will fight until every species in the galaxy understands one simple truth. She leaned forward. Her eyes burned with cold fire. Earth does not forgive. The parliament erupted in cheers. The streets erupted in cheers. Across the planet, humans raised their voices in anger and pain and determination. They had tried to be peaceful. They had tried to be kind. And the galaxy had answered with murder. Now, they would answer with war. General Siwu. Han stood in the command center beneath. He was a tall man with gray at his temples and scars on his hands from battles fought long ago. He had spent his life preparing for a war he hoped would never come. Now it was here. The council thinks we are soft, he told his officers. They think 200 years of peace have made us forget how to fight. They are wrong. Humans have been fighting since we climbed down from the trees. It is in our blood. It is in our bones. He pointed at the star map on the wall. It showed the territory of all 12 council species. It showed their shipyards and their supply lines and their homeworlds. We will not conquer them. We will not occupy their worlds. We will make them hurt until they understand what they have done. We will burn their ships and break their stations and shatter their pride. And we will not stop until they kneel before Earth and beg for forgiveness. The officers nodded. They had seen Yuna die. They had seen the council smile. They were ready to make the galaxy pay. 1 week later, a Valeri ship entered Earth's solar system. It carried Ambassador Torek, one of Theron's closest allies. He came with offers of peace. He came with explanations and excuses and promises of compensation. Admiral Taiho Kong met him at the landing pad personally. He stood alone in the rain, his uniform dark with water, his face showing nothing. Torek stepped off his ship with a smile. Admiral, I am here to discuss terms. The Council believes we can resolve this situation peacefully. Ambassador Park's death was regrettable. But Taiho raised his hand. Torek fell silent. You came here to talk, Taiho said. I understand. Talking is what diplomats do. But Ambassador Park was our diplomat. She was the one who talked for us. She was the one who believed in peaceful words. He reached into his coat and pulled out a small box. It was made of plain wood, simple and undecorated. He held it out to Torek. What is this? Torek asked. Open it. Torek opened the box. Inside was a piece of rope. It was rough and brown and worn. Torek stared at it without understanding. Then his face went pale as he realized what it was. That is the same type of rope your council used to hang Ambassador Park, Taiho said. We had it made special. We wanted you to have something to remember her by. Ark's hands began to shake. Admiral, please. The council sent me to make peace. We can negotiate. We can. There will be no negotiation, Taiho said. There will be no peace. There will only be war until the galaxy learns what happens when you kill one of our own. He stepped closer. His eyes were dark as the space between stars. Go back to your council, Ambassador. Tell them what you have seen here. Tell them that Earth is coming. Tell them that we will remember Yuna Park until the last star burns out. Tell them that we will teach them the cost of human blood. He turned and walked away into the rain. Torek stood alone on the landing pad, holding the box with the rope inside. His ship was silent behind him. The rain fell around him like tears. He had come to Earth expecting to find a broken people, ready to accept whatever terms the Council offered. Instead, he had found something far more terrifying. He had found humans who were no longer interested in peace. As his ship lifted off and headed back toward Council space, Torek looked down at Earth one last time. The blue planet looked so small from space, so fragile, so easy to ignore. But Torek knew now that size meant nothing. Earth was not small. Earth was not weak. Earth was angry, and the galaxy was about to learn what that meant. The war began with fire. Human ships appeared without. Warning at the Valeri shipyard of Kestros Prime. There were 50 of them, black and silent against the stars. They did not send warnings. They did not demand surrender. They simply opened fire. The shipyard burned for 3 days. When the flames finally died, nothing was left but twisted metal and memories. 600 Valeri ships had been under construction there. Now they were dust floating in the void. Captain Junho Beek watched the destruction from the bridge of his flagship, the Silent Fury. He was 35 years old, with sharp eyes and a face that rarely smiled. He had been a cargo pilot before the war. He had spent his days moving supplies between colonies, dreaming of quiet retirement on some green world. Then he had watched Una Park die. Now he led the Ghost Fleet, 20 ships that moved through space like shadows. They struck without warning and vanished before the enemy could respond. They had destroyed 12 shipyards in the first year alone. The Valeri had put a price on Junho's head that could buy a small moon. He did not care about the price. He cared about the mission. Captain, his communications officer, called out, "We're receiving surrender signals from the station's escape pods." Junho looked at the pods floating among the wreckage. There were hundreds of them, full of Valeri workers and soldiers. They had not built the ships that killed Una. They were just workers doing their jobs. "Let them go," Junho said. "We are not here to murder civilians. We are here to break their ability to fight." The Ghost Fleet slipped away into the darkness between stars. Behind them, rescue ships would come to collect the survivors. Those survivors would tell stories about the humans who appeared from nowhere and destroyed everything. Those stories would spread fear through the galaxy. Fear was a weapon too. 7 years passed. The war did not end. It only grew larger. Commander Hannah Yoon became the youngest fleet commander in human history at age 29. She was small and quiet, with long black hair she kept in a tight braid. People who met her often thought she was a secretary or an assistant. They were wrong. Hannah had won 14 battles against Council forces. She had broken 3 blockades that military experts said were unbreakable. She had earned the respect of every officer in the fleet and the hatred of every council. Admiral, the Battle of Crimson. Nebula would make her legend. The Valeri had gathered their largest fleet to protect the nebula. 300 warships formed a wall of metal and fire. Behind them lay the main supply route to 5 council homeworlds. If humans could break through, the war would turn forever in Earth's favor. Hannah brought 200 ships. She was outnumbered by 100 vessels. Every military calculation said she should retreat and wait for reinforcements. Hannah did not believe in calculations. "Open a channel to the Valeri fleet," she ordered. Her communications officer hesitated. "Commander, a channel." "Yes, I want to talk to them." The channel opened. The face of Valeri Admiral Korath appeared on screen. He was old and proud, with medals covering his chest and confidence in his eyes. "Human commander," he said, "you are outnumbered. Surrender now, and we will grant your crews mercy." Hannah smiled. It was not a kind smile. "Admiral, I have something to show you." She pressed a button on her console. The main screen switched to a different image. It showed Una Park hanging from a rope in the council plaza. The image that had started the war. The image that every human had burned into their memory. Korath's face went pale. "We do not surrender," Hannah said. "We do not retreat. We remember. And now we are going to show you what human memory means." She cut the channel. "All ships," she ordered. "Attack formation. Maximum speed. No mercy." The Battle of Crimson Nebula lasted 18 hours. When it ended, 160 Valeri ships were destroyed. The rest fled into deep space. Hannah lost 42 ships and 6,000 crew members. She remembered every name. The supply route fell to human control. The Council's unity began to crack. 2 species withdrew from the war. The Orin had never wanted to fight humans. Their ambassador had been the only one to vote against Una's execution. Now they pulled their fleets back and declared neutrality. The Mechari followed soon after. They were a trading species who had joined the Council for protection, not war. Human raiders were destroying their cargo ships faster than they could build new ones. The war was bankrupting them. 10 species became 8. Counselor Theron watched his alliance fall apart from his office. On Sereth, the Valeri homeworld, he had planned everything so carefully. The false evidence against Una, the quick trial, the public execution. He had believed it would frighten humanity into submission. Instead, it had created a monster. "Sir," his aide said, entering the office, "we have lost contact with the Kestros sector." Human ships were spotted near the orbital stations. Theron did not respond. He was watching the stars through his window. Somewhere out there, human ships were moving. Always moving. Always hunting. Always remembering, sir. What should we do? Theron closed his eyes. What could they do? The humans did not want territory. They did not want resources. They did not want surrender. They wanted something far simpler and far more terrifying. They wanted the Council to suffer. "Order the fleet to protect Sarath," Theron said finally. "Pull ships from everywhere else if we must. They will come for us eventually. They will come for me." His aide nodded and left. Theron remained at the window, watching the stars burn. He thought about Unipark. He remembered her face at the trial. She had not begged. She had not cried. She had simply looked at him with eyes full of quiet certainty. Earth will remember. He had not understood then. He had thought it was a desperate threat from a dying woman. He had been so confident that humans would accept their loss and move on now. 8 years later, human ships burned through his empire like fire through dry grass. His allies were abandoning him. His people lived in fear. His name had become a symbol of the greatest mistake in galactic history. Earth had. Remember, and Earth was coming for him. Outside, another star flickered and died. Another station fell to human weapons. Another piece of the Valeri Empire turned to ash. The war was far from over. But Theron knew, deep in his heart, that he had already lost. Humanity did not fight for victory. They fought for memory. And memory was something that could never be defeated. 13 years after Unipark died, 300 human warships surrounded the planet Sarath. They came from every direction, blocking every escape route, cutting every communication line. They moved slowly and deliberately, like hunters who knew their prey had nowhere to run. The planet below watched in silence as the sky filled with metal and death. Admiral Tai-Ho Kong stood on the bridge of the flagship Hope's Revenge. He was 76 years old now. His hair had turned completely white. His face had grown more lines with each passing year. But his eyes were the same as they had been on the day he watched Una die. Cold, patient, unforgiving. "All ships in position, sir," his tactical officer reported. "The Valeri fleet has been destroyed. No reinforcements are coming." Tai-Ho nodded slowly. 13 years. He had waited 13 years for this moment. He had buried friends and mourned losses and watched the galaxy burn. All for this. All for the chance to look down at the world that had killed Earth's daughter? "Open a channel to the planet," he ordered. The channel opened. The face of Valeri Chancellor Soren appeared. She was young, much younger than Theron. She had taken power just 2 years ago after the previous government collapsed under the weight of the war. Her eyes were tired and afraid. "Admiral Kong," she said, "please, we want peace. We will give you anything. Resources, technology, territory. Just name your price." Tai-Ho shook his head slowly. "Chancellor, you misunderstand. We have not come to negotiate. We have not come to conquer your world. We have come to collect what we are owed. What do you want?" "Counselor Theron, and every official who voted for Ambassador Park's execution, deliver them to us, and your world will not be harmed. Refuse, and we will wait here until your people deliver them for you." Soren's face went pale. "Admiral, some of those officials are dead. Some have fled to other species." "I cannot then find them," Tai-Ho said. "We are patient. We have waited 13 years. We can wait 13 more." The channel closed. Below, on the surface of Sereth, chaos erupted. The people had heard the ultimatum through leaked broadcasts. They had spent 13 years watching their sons and daughters die in a war started by one man's arrogance. Now that man was hiding somewhere on their planet while human ships waited in the sky. Crowds gathered outside government buildings. They shouted Theron's name. They demanded he be surrendered. Riots broke out in the capital city. The police tried to restore order. But there were too many angry people and too few officers. Theron watched the riots from his bunker beneath his family estate. It was deep underground, protected by thick walls and armed guards. He had built it years ago, knowing this day might come. He had supplies to last 10 years. He believed he could wait out the humans. He was wrong. General Yoonji Shin led the ground forces that landed on Sereth 3 weeks later. She was 41 years old with short gray hair and a face that showed no emotion. She had commanded the assault on 12 council worlds. She had never lost a battle. She had never shown mercy to those who did not deserve it, but she also never killed civilians. Never burned cities. Never punished the innocent for the crimes of the guilty. General, her scout reported. We have located Theron's bunker. It's beneath his estate, 20 kilometers north of the capital. Yoonji studied the map. The bunker was well protected. Breaking through would take time and cost lives. But there was another way. How many guards does he have? Approximately 58, all loyal to him personally and his supplies. Enough to last years, according to our intelligence. Yoonji nodded. Then we wait. Seal all exits. Cut all power from outside. Let him sit in the dark and think about what he has done. The siege lasted 2 months. Inside the bunker, Theron's guards grew restless. Their families were on the surface, caught between human soldiers and angry Valeri crowds. They had signed up to protect a powerful counselor, not to die for a wanted criminal. One night, they opened the doors themselves. Yanji walked into the bunker with 12 soldiers. The guards had surrendered without a fight. They stood against the walls, hands raised, eyes avoiding Theron's gaze. Theron sat in a small room filled with documents. He had been trying to destroy evidence of his crimes. Papers were burning in a metal bin. Data screens were shattered on the floor. But there was too much to destroy in time. Yanji looked at him without expression. He was thinner than the images she had seen. Older. More afraid. He clutched a folder of documents to his chest like a shield. You do not understand, he said. His voice was high and desperate. Humans are dangerous. I have proof. These documents show that humanity was planning to attack the council. I had to act first. I had to protect my people. Yoonji took the folder from his hands. She glanced at the pages inside. Fake intelligence reports. Forged communications. Lies built upon lies to justify murder. You had to protect your people, she repeated, by killing an innocent woman who came in peace. She was not innocent. She was Ambassador Park, believed in friendship between our species, Yoonji said. She spent 15 years trying to build bridges. She trusted you, and you hanged her like a criminal in front of the entire galaxy. She stepped closer. Theron pressed himself against the wall. You were right about one thing, she said quietly. Humans are dangerous. We are the most dangerous species in this galaxy. But not because we wanted to attack you. We were dangerous because we loved our own. Because when you hurt one of us, you hurt all of us. Because we never forget. She took his arm and pulled him to his feet. Counselor Theron. By the authority of the United Earth Government. You are under arrest for the murder of Ambassador Una Park. You will stand trial for your crimes. The galaxy will witness your judgment. Across the Council's former territory, human forces captured the other officials who had voted for Una's death. Some had fled to distant worlds. Some had changed their names and faces. Some had begged for protection from species that had already surrendered. None of them escaped. Humanity had waited 13 years. They would not let a single guilty person go free. The trial was held on Earth, in a courtroom built specifically for the occasion. 11 former council members sat in the defendants' chairs. Their crimes were read aloud in every language. Their lies were exposed one by one. Witnesses testified about Una's peaceful nature in her unjust death. President Mingi Cho, now elderly and frail, personally read the sentences. Her voice shook with emotion, but her words were clear. For the crime of murdering Ambassador Una Park, each of you is sentenced to life imprisonment. You will spend your remaining days on a barren moon at the edge of human space. You will have no visitors, no communication with the outside, only time to reflect on what you have done. Theron stood as the guards approached him. This is unjust, he shouted. You have no right, we have every right, Minji said. You taught us that when you killed our daughter. Now live with what you have learned. The 11 were taken away. The galaxy watched in silence. Justice had been served. But the war was not truly over. Humanity would never let it be over. 70 years had passed since Una Park died. The galaxy had changed beyond recognition. The Galactic Council no longer existed. Its grand chamber on Harmony Prime stood empty and dark, a monument to arrogance and failure. The 12 species that had once ruled the stars now lived under a new order. An order built on fear and respect, and the memory of what happened when they challenged humanity. Admiral Dojan Kong stood on the observation deck of the memorial station that now orbited Harmony Prime. He was 43 years old. With his grandfather's sharp eyes and his father's steady hands, 3 generations of his family had served in the fleet. 3 generations had carried the memory of Una Park like a sacred flame. Today was the 70th anniversary of her execution. Ships were gathering from across human space, hundreds of them, military and civilian alike, coming to pay their respects. It happened every year. It would happen every year until the stars themselves burned out, Admiral, his aide said. The ceremony will begin in 1 hour. Doyan nodded but did not turn from the window. He was looking at Harmony Prime below. The station was still intact but abandoned. No species wanted to live there anymore. It had become a place of ghosts and guilt. A reminder of the day the galaxy made its greatest mistake. My grandfather used to tell me about her, Doyan said quietly. Ambassador Park. He met her once, before the war. He said she had the kindest smile he had ever seen. His aide was silent. Everyone knew the stories. Every human child learned about Una Park in school. They learned about her dedication, her belief in peace, her courage in the face of death. And they learned about her last words. Earth will remember. It was more than a phrase now. It was a promise, a sacred oath that humanity had sworn to keep forever. The new Galactic Alliance had formed 30 years after the war. It was not like the old council. Humans held permanent veto power over every major decision, not because they had demanded it, not because they had conquered the galaxy, but because every species remembered what happened when Earth was wronged. The Valeri had paid the heaviest price. Their empire had collapsed completely. Their population had shrunk by half. Their homeworld had been occupied for 20 years before human forces finally withdrew. Now they were a quiet species, keeping to their corner of space, never forgetting the war they had started and lost. The other species had fared better, but none of them had forgotten either. The Orin, who had voted against Una's execution, had become humanity's closest allies. Their ambassador had wept when he met President Minji Cho after the war. He had apologized for not doing more. She had taken his hand and forgiven him. The Mechri had rebuilt their trading empire under human protection. They paid tribute to Earth every year, not because they were forced to, but because they wanted to show their gratitude for being spared the worst of human anger. And the others? The others had learned the hardest lesson of all. They had learned that humans were not to be feared because they were strong. Humans were to be feared because they loved their own with a fierce and endless fire. Attack one human, and you attacked all of humanity. Kill one innocent daughter of Earth, and you faced the wrath of an entire species that would never stop, never rest. Never forget. The ceremony began as the sun set behind Harmony Prime. 500 ships hung in formation around the memorial station. Their lights blinked in the darkness like stars brought down from heaven. Admiral Doyen stepped to the podium. Behind him, a holographic image of Una Park appeared. She was smiling, just as she had in the photograph that had hung behind President Cho all those years ago. Doyen began. The Galactic Council executed Ambassador Unipark. They believed they could frighten humanity into submission. They believed that killing one woman would break our spirit. He paused. Across human space, billions of people were watching. On alien worlds, millions more watched in silence. They were wrong. Ambassador Park's death did not break us. It united us in a way nothing else could. It reminded us who we are. It reminded us that we are a family, separated by light years, but connected by something deeper than blood. He looked at the image of Yuna. Her smile had not changed in 70 years. Her hope still shone in her eyes. We do not celebrate this day. We remember it. We remember the cost of trust betrayed. We remember the price of innocence lost. And we remember our promise to Ambassador Park and to all who died in the war that followed. His voice grew stronger. Earth will remember. We said it then. We say it now. We will say it until the last human draws their final breath. We will never forget those who are taken from us. We will never forgive those who would harm our own. And we will never stop watching the stars for signs of danger. The ships began to broadcast. Every frequency, every channel, every corner of the galaxy received the same message. It was Yuna's voice recorded 70 years ago on the scaffold. Earth will remember. The words echoed through space. They reached alien worlds where children asked their parents what they meant. They reached trading stations where merchants paused their work to listen. They reached the prison moon where Theron had died 20 years ago, alone and forgotten. After the ceremony, Admiral Doyan walked through the memorial station. Its walls were covered with names. Every human who had died in the war, every soldier, pilot, doctor, and engineer who had given their life for Earth's memory. There were so many names that they filled 3 entire levels of the station. At the center was a simple plaque with only 2 words, Unipark. Doyen touched the plaque gently. He had never met her. He had only known her through stories and recordings and the legacy she had left behind. But he felt connected to her. Every human did. "We keep our promises," he whispered. "We always will." Somewhere in the galaxy, a young alien girl sat with her mother on a hillside, watching human ships patrol the night sky. They moved in slow, careful patterns, never stopping, never resting. "Mother," the girl asked, "why do the humans never stop watching? The war ended so long ago." Her mother was quiet for a long moment. She remembered the stories her own mother had told her. Stories about the day the galaxy made its greatest mistake. Stories about the endless war that followed, because ending would mean forgetting, she finally said. And humans do not forget those they have lost. They loved Ambassador Park. They loved every person who died in the war. And they will keep watching until the end of time to make sure it never happens again. The girl looked up at the ships with new understanding. They were not just patrols. They were guardians, protectors, living monuments to a woman who died believing in peace. Will they ever stop? Her mother shook her head slowly.
Our child.
They will never stop. That is their promise. That is their curse. And that is why the galaxy will never forget what we did to them. Above, the human ships continued their eternal vigil. Their lights blinked against the darkness. Their crews watched the stars with ancient, patient eyes. Earth remembered. Earth would always remember. And the galaxy would never be allowed to forget.